All right, you are looking for page 42, Voyage of the Mayflower. The packet should be a big Unit 1 packet. It should be stored in your yellow folder. Shreya, what's up?
What page is that?
Page 42.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Shazam. Do you have a question? Okay. Okay, so you should be on page 40. Let's see. What is that? Ojis, what is it? Love it.
Miss Mize, I'm here.
Hi, Alan. Okay, I'm gonna take some real quick. We're still letting in a few friends. You should be on page 42, Voyage to the Mayflower, or Voyage of the Mayflower. Okay, Kendall. Here's that yellow background. I do not see Kendall yet. Okay, Liam. There he is. Zay, there you are. Maddie. I don't see Maddie. Mia is here. Mia, I need your screen on. Is Maya here yet? No Maya yet. Adrani, no Adrani yet. Bailey, I saw earlier. Addison, are you here yet? No Addison. Jenna, I saw. Jet, I saw. Jane, I saw. Jalen, I saw. Ojis, I just talked to. Alan, I just talked to. Shazab, I just talked to. Sahaj is here. Shreya is here. Orion is here. Wyatt is here. Adeline is here. Gwen is here. Emily is here. Eli is right there. Eli, you just popped up. Okay, and who just joined us? Addison just joined us, I know that. Is Adrani or Maya here yet? No, and is Maddie or Kendall here yet? Okay. All right, so we are on page 42. You are following along. We're going to read through this. This is kind of a tricky passage, not really my favorite of passages. So we're going to kind of tweak what we're going to be doing a little bit. I saw Kendall just joined us. Okay. So you are on page 42, Voyage of the Mayflower by Stephen Krensky. As we read, so we're reading another historical article. First, we're going to read to find out what the main idea of the article is. The main idea. So what is the whole passage about? Try and be thinking about what that might be. And then we're going to reread it and really discuss that main idea. So that is our goal for today. So as I read, you're following along. You have a tracking finger. You are either following along on my screen or following along on your own. Up to you. And I'm going to be reading. So listening for trying to figure out what the main idea of this article is. Main idea. Tracking finger, paragraph 1. Wyatt's ready. Thank you, Wyatt. Alan is ready. Ojis is ready. There's Maya. Check her off. Still no Adrani or Madeline? Okay. All right, tracking finger, paragraph 1. The Mayflower was a sailing ship. It left England in September 1620. The ship was carrying 102 passengers. The passengers were later known as pilgrims. They were looking for a new place to live. Paragraph 2. The voyage across the Atlantic Ocean took 66 days. That's about 2 months to go across the Atlantic Ocean. That's a long time. Many of the people got seasick as they traveled. There were many storms and leaky cabins. Their dogs and sheep and chickens were not very happy either. So you have to remember, ships way back then look a lot different than the cruise ships we go on today. So just keep that in mind. It was a lot smaller of a ship. There probably weren't as many bathrooms, it was not as clean. So think about that as you read. The Mayflower had been sailing for Virginia, but when the ship reached Massachusetts, the Pilgrims thought they had gone too far. They stopped where some Native Americans had cleared some land, but had moved away. The Pilgrims called the place Plymouth. Paragraph 4. The Pilgrims started building a town. The cold weather slowed their progress. Most of the Pilgrims lived on the ship for the winter. Many wondered if they could survive in this new land. Paragraph 5. The coming of spring raised the hopes of the Pilgrims. Their future looked better. Maybe they could build a home here after all. I want you this is your opinion. What do you think the main idea is of this story? I want you to turn your packet and I want you to write the main idea of what you think this story is about. Write one complete sentence, and I want the sentence to say, I think, the main idea is fill in the blank. I think the main idea is fill in the blank. This is your opinion. We're going to go back and reread this again. So I want to see what your opinion is of the main idea. Use the title, use the picture. Think about what we just read. What is the main idea? Maya, if my screen's frozen, leaving and coming back, okay? Maddie just joined us. So I'm just missing a Adrani? Surprised. Okay. What is the main idea? What is the main
idea? Is how they sail. I need to be dead. No. Oh.
You need to mute yourself, please.
Mayflowers. Let's look at Mayflowers. Mayflowers, aren't Mayflowers on my fingers. Kind of great.
Everyone here, Sahaj, mute yourself, please. You were loud this whole time. Okay. There's our giggles for the day. I think the main idea is, who wants to, Maya, we're on page 42. Who wants to say what they think is the main idea? Who is brave enough? Be brave. Be brave. Liam is brave enough. Awesome. Thank you, Liam. Liam, let's try unmuting yourself. Let's see if we have good connection. What do you think the main idea was about this passage?
The Mayflower.
What do you think the main idea was? Type it into the chat, Liam, since we're laggy. And in the meantime, while Liam is typing, Emily is also going to be a brave friend. Emily, what do you think the main idea was about?
I think the main idea is about the Mayflower.
It's about the Mayflower. And Liam also said Mayflower. And Emily, I know Liam would have said this too. Emily, I appreciate that you used our sentence frame to answer and respond to my question. So my question was, what is the main idea? You said, I think the main idea, Miss Mize, is about the Mayflower. I love the way that you just answered that. So we have Mayflower. Does anyone have another thing that they thought? We have Mayflower. Does everyone agree or have another one? I'll take a blue hand. Eli, what are your thoughts? What do you think the main idea is?
How they sailed.
Ooh, okay, so you think how they sailed. Okay, love it. Oops, that's gonna be hard to see, but we get the point. I'll take one more. Zay, what are your thoughts? What do you think the main idea is about?
I think the main idea is about the ship.
About the ship. So can we also say that you think the Mayflower, since that's kind of the same thing? That's the ship that we're talking about? Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's go back and reread this. I'm gonna make sure everyone's muted. Say, let's mute you. I'm gonna go back. We're gonna reread this passage. Zay, will you get yourself muted for me, please? We're gonna reread this passage, Voyage of the Mayflower. Try and look for one sentence that might help us know what the main idea is. Okay, so underline it. If you think it goes with the main idea, I want you to underline it. Following along, tracking finger, we're on paragraph 1. The Mayflower was a sailing ship. It left England in September 1620. The ship was carrying 102 passengers. The passengers were later known as pilgrims. They were looking for a new place to live. Ooh, Jet, this kind of goes along with what you were thinking. Jet's thoughts were the main idea could be about the new place that they're living. The voyage across the Atlantic Ocean took 66 days. Many of the people got seasick as they traveled. There were many storms and leaky cabins. Their dogs and sheep and chickens were not very happy either. The Mayflower had been sailing for Virginia, but when the ship reached Massachusetts, the Pilgrims thought they had gone far enough. They stopped where some Native Americans had cleared some land but had moved away. The Pilgrims called the place Plymouth. The Pilgrims started building a town. The cold weather slowed their progress. Most of the Pilgrims lived on the ship for the winter. Many wondered if they could survive in this new land. Coming of spring raised the hopes of the Pilgrims. Their future looked better. Maybe they could build a home here after all. So, what is the main idea of this passage? So, lots of friends, Oja said that they didn't have a place to live and they were kind of trying to find a new place. And so they rode on the Mayflower all the way to Virginia and they named the place called Plymouth. It kind of goes back to what Jet was also saying. Jet was also saying that they were looking for a new place to live. So we could write that the main idea, go ahead and underline these main ideas. They were looking for a new place to live. I definitely agree with Jet. They were looking for a new place to live. How they were getting to that new place to live is by going on the Mayflower. So the main idea is how the Pilgrims got on this ship, the Mayflower, and traveled to a new land. Unfortunately, the new land had other friends already there, the Native Americans, but the Pilgrims were the ones who got here and they named it Plymouth. Where did I see that? Plymouth. So the main idea is how they traveled in the Mayflower to find a new place to live, and they finally found that place to live called Plymouth. That is our main idea. Any questions on that? You guys just found main idea by working together. You rocked it. Okay, let's look at this number 1. We're gonna just answer this.
Are we on?
Why did most of the Pilgrims live on the Mayflower for the winter? Ooh, let's go back. That was towards the end of the paragraph or the story. And it said, the Pilgrims started building the town. The cold weather slowed their progress. Most of the Pilgrims lived on the ship for the winter. Many wondered if they would survive this new land. So why did most of the Pilgrims live on the Mayflower? Was it because they wanted to live on the ship over land? Was it because it was too cold? Was it because they were afraid of the Native Americans? Or was it because they were still trying to get to Virginia? Go ahead and type in the chat. Do you think it's A, B, C, or D? And then I'm going to call on some friends to ask for some reasoning behind that. What are your thoughts? Okay, seeing lots of answers. Awesome. Adrani, I only need it one time. Thank you. Okay, so I'm seeing I'm mainly seeing B, but I do see a lot of other friends picking other things. So let's go over this. Why did most Pilgrims live on the Mayflower for the winter? Let's go back to paragraph 4. Back to paragraph 4. The cold weather slowed their progress. Most of the Pilgrims lived on the ship in the winter because it was cold. They weren't sure if they could survive the new land because of how cold it was. So which one goes along with it was too cold? A, B, C, or D? So if you want to change your answer, go ahead and change your answer. Johnny, we're on page 43.
That's how you do it,
All
son.
right, friends, change their answer. Awesome. Okay, so yes, B is the correct answer because it was too cold to build a town to live in because they had to make it through the winter and then in the spring they could start building. So B is your correct answer. It couldn't be that they liked living on the ship more than land because the ship was miserable. The animals didn't like it. Remember how I said it was kind of dirty and gross and it's really tight? So you know that A couldn't be it. C, it didn't say anything in the passage. It didn't even talk about how them being afraid of Native Americans. So you know right away, C can't be it. They were still trying to get to Virginia. They made it to Virginia. They called it Plymouth. So they had already made it there. And then they were going through the winter. So B is the only possible answer it could be. All right, your exit ticket today. Here we go. Number 2. Choose an answer from the box to finish the sentence. Write your choice on the line to finish the sentence. So we're completing this sentence. And you are going to write one of these answers in the chat, and that will be your exit ticket. When spring came, the Pilgrims became hopeful, gloomy, decided to leave, or returned to the ship. So go back and look at the writing. What did they do? When spring came, so winter, it was too cold. Now the spring's coming. They were what? They were what about rebuilding and starting fresh in Plymouth? Maya, you may go to lunch. Type it in the chat after you've written it. Which one do you think it is? Type it in the chat. And if you can't type in the chat, just wait patiently. Jet, you may go to lunch, bud. Write it on the line. Gwen, you may go to lunch. Mia, you may go to lunch. Ojus, I want you to hang here. Kendall, you may go to lunch. Sahaj, you may go to lunch. Adrani, go to lunch. Alan, go to lunch. Jalen, stay here. Bailey, go to lunch. Shreya, stay here. Anyone else want to type their responses? Okay, everyone else stay here and listen in. So it says, choose the answer from the box to finish the sentence. Write your choice on the line to finish the sentence. When spring came, the pilgrims became. Let's go back to paragraph 4. In paragraph 4, it says, the pilgrims started to build a town. The cold weather slowed their progress. Most of the pilgrims lived on the ship for the winter. Many wondered if they would be able to survive the new land. The coming of spring raised the hopes of the pilgrims. Their future looked better. Maybe they could build a home here after all. Which one goes along with paragraph 5? When the spring came, the pilgrims, fill in the blank. Hold it up and fill in the blank once you are done. They became what? Shreya, you may go to lunch. Bailey, you may go to lunch. Emily, you may go to lunch. Shazab, get a little closer for me, please. Shazab, I want you to think about that again. Go back and read paragraph 5 for me. Ojus, you may go to lunch. Zay. I can't tell what that says, Zay. Yes, Zay, you may go to lunch. Thank you. Maddie, you may go to lunch.
Bye.
The rest of you guys, let's talk about this. When spring came, the coming of spring raised the hopes of the pilgrims. Raised the hopes of the pilgrims. So they became hopeful. When spring came, the pilgrims became hopeful. Period. When the spring came, the pilgrims became hopeful. They weren't talking about leaving because they had just got there. They had made it through the winter. They didn't become gloomy. The winter was gloomy, not spring. Spring they were excited for. Return to the ship. Well, they did return to the ship in the winter, but not during the spring. They wanted to start setting up in their new land. So that is why it became hopeful. Once you have that written down, you may go to lunch and you are done with ready reading for the day. If you have questions, hang back and you can ask me. Orion, you may go. Shreya, what's your question, my love?
Did you actually know 500 years ago, people wouldn't really sail so far because they thought it was the edge of the world?
Ooh, that's a cool fun fact. Very cool.
So they went anywhere so far, so they just not go sail so much.
Love it. Very cool fun fact.